Thomas and Carrie wanted to visit the senator's personal office in Washington, D.C. first. Since it was located near their FBI headquarters, they parked in their assigned parking space and walked the few extra blocks to meet with the deceased senator's staff. "This is exciting," Carrie said as they walked. "This is nerve-wracking," Thomas replied. The senator's office building was located at the Cannon House office building on the 3rd floor. The halls echoed with their footsteps as they walked to the elevators. Carrie's mood had changed. "This place gives me the creeps," she said, rubbing her arms. "Doesn't make me feel good either, and I don't like the fact that it seems empty." Carrie pushed the elevator button, and the roar of the motors could be heard throughout the walls. The gate rose and the elevator door opened. The two looked at each other and walked in. Thomas pushed for the 3rd floor, and the cranky old elevator began to move. Carrie sighed, and Thomas was anxious to get out of the small enclosure. It seemed to take forever for the door to open, and Carrie thought at one point they were stuck. Their shoulders bumped together as they fought to see who would have the luxury of getting out first. Thomas thought better of it and decided he should be a gentleman and let the lady go first. "Thanks," she sneered at him. The deceased senator's office was at the end of the hall. Their footsteps echoed again as they walked. An old door with a smoked glass window proudly announced the senator's name. With notes and briefcase in hand, they slowly opened the door. An older woman, very similar to the one in Ohio, met them as they entered. "May I help you?" she asked. The two agents flashed their badges. "Oh, I see," she said. "Have a seat and we'll talk. I'm Margaret Woods. I was his personal secretary." "Great, we'd like to look around if that's okay," Thomas said. "Fine," Miss Woods replied. The office was similar to the senator's Ohio office, but not on such a grand scale. A small lobby opened to several doors leading off to smaller offices, with a large office at the far end for the senator. The rooms were paneled with dark wood, and the carpet was of a flower design. The desks were also of dark wood, and Thomas wondered to himself if the senator had any stock in a lumber company. All his offices were of mahogany. One of the smaller rooms was a library with books and files. No one was working except Miss Woods. She seemed to get the hint and said without being asked, "This is the season when the senator would normally be in Ohio. He wouldn't be expected for a few more weeks." "Miss Woods," Thomas asked, "why does the senator have 2 offices here in D.C.? Isn't the one at the Capitol building enough?" "Not really. Remember, he was a lawyer before he became a senator, and he still practices law from this office." "I see. So where is everyone? Do they only play law while he's here?" Miss Woods ignored that comment and stared at the two agents with a menacing glare. Thomas handed her a list of names and asked her to comment on each one, the same as he had asked Miss Mosher back in Ohio. As she studied the names, Thomas looked around and noticed that Carrie had wandered into the library and was opening files. Good girl, Thomas thought. "I don't know who this Maxine Thornton is," Miss Woods said sternly. "I've never heard of her. I know everyone on the senator's staff by name, and we do not have a Maxine Thornton. We were told that the people in D.C. had ordered her from a temporary agency." Miss Woods looked at Thomas, obviously bewildered. "Why would we do that?" "That was my question, Miss Woods." "Thomas, look at this!" Carrie yelled from the library. Miss Woods and Thomas both reacted to Carrie's request and walked to the library door. Carrie was holding a folder. "It's a work order for Maxine Thornton." Thomas grabbed the folder and read the paperwork. "Thought you didn't know anything about this, Miss Woods." "I am not the only one who works here, Agent Edwards," she snapped. "Well, at least this has a home address on it," he noted. The two agents poked around through a few more files but found nothing. They also examined the senator's personal office and the other rooms, but again found nothing. Thomas asked if they could take a few things with them, such as the senator's calendar and personal organizer that sat on his desk. Thomas had one final question. "Miss Woods, where did the senator stay when he was in town?" "Why, at his apartment, of course." She scribbled the address on a piece of paper and handed it to Thomas. He thanked her and said they might be back. They gathered their treasures and headed again for the old elevator. As the two agents stared at the elevator, Carrie suggested a race down the stairs. Tom accepted the challenge. He decided that a heart attack would be better than dying in that contraption. Once their feet were firmly back on the pavement, they headed for the deceased senator's apartment. It was located on the 14th floor of a high-rise in Arlington, Virginia. It overlooked the Theodore Roosevelt Island and had a spectacular view of the bay. From one bedroom window, the agents could see parts of the Arlington Cemetery. The apartment was lavishly furnished with expensive miniature sculptures, paintings, and other exquisite decor. "I thought senators didn't make much money," Carrie said, picking up and examining various items. "They make about $150 a year or so, maybe as much as $200. Is that considered a lot?" Thomas answered. "Wow, I'm definitely in the wrong profession, but even that kind of money wouldn't pay for this place and his house in Ohio, too." "You know, you're right. I hadn't thought of that. Let's ask for the senator's tax returns and see what he reported." "I'll give Owens a call," she said, and pulled out her phone. She stood by the window for better reception. Finally, she said, "He's not answering. Our phones don't work in that office, remember? Use the main number. Just choose your words carefully." Thomas reminded her. "Yeah, right. Sorry." She punched in the main number and asked for their extension, and Snyder picked up on the third ring. "How's it going?" he asked. "Nothing real just yet. We need you to do something, though." She paused. "Okay, I will. We need you to get the senator's tax returns for the last, 5 years? She emphasized the 5, and Thomas nodded his approval. She continued to talk. "And don't get yourselves mugged either." "Yeah, you too. Later." Thomas gave her a be careful look with that last statement and went back to searching the apartment. As Carrie entered the kitchen, the doorbell rang. "Now, who the hell is that?" she muttered. As she approached the door, Carrie's internal warning device kicked into gear. She didn't know how it worked, but she always trusted her inner call. So she didn't want to stand directly in front of the door to use the peephole. She tried to listen by using the door frame, but couldn't hear a thing. The bell rang again. Thomas walked into the living room and saw Carrie by the door, gun drawn. "Who is it?" he whispered. Carrie shrugged her shoulders to say, "Don't know." She could be a lot of fun, but when she needed to be a serious FBI agent, she could be a tough one. She wouldn't hesitate to shoot someone if she had to. In fact, she'd already shot and killed 3 suspects in self-defense during her short career. She motioned for Thomas to go around and out the back entrance. He nodded and took off. As she stood watch at the front door, he ran to the back through the kitchen. He pulled out his pistol and crept silently up to the back door. Someone knocked loudly on the front door this time instead of using the bell. Thomas opened the back door and peeked through the crack. The quiet, empty stairwell was beyond. He ducked out, and the door automatically closed and locked behind him. He slowly opened the hall door and peeked down the dimly lit corridor. Miss Woods stood at the front door, knocking and trying to see in through the peephole. She held some papers. He flipped on the gun's safety, put it back in his holster, and breathed a sigh of relief. He approached Miss Woods, snickering internally at Carrie's reaction. "Is there something we can help you with?" he asked. The voice coming from behind startled Miss Woods. She turned and looked Thomas directly in the eyes. "You scared me. What are you doing out here?" She was now shaking. "Wanted to see who was knocking before we answered. Carrie, open the door. It's Miss Woods." Carrie slowly cracked open the door and peered cautiously out. When she saw Thomas and Miss Woods, she put her gun away and opened the door. "Come in, you two." As Miss Woods walked into the room, she handed Thomas the papers. "Thought you might like these. It's more information on that temp girl. I remembered after you left that Stephen kept a private file. I found these in there." "We searched his office. There was no private files," Carrie said. She hated to miss things. It's not out in the open where you can see it," Miss Woods said. "His filing cabinet has a hidden drawer. I've never snooped in there before, but he showed it to me once in case anything ever happened to him. I thought I'd better check it, and this was what I found. Unless you know exactly where to look, you'd never find it. Anyway, nothing's in there really, just some memos. But I thought you'd like to look them over. What else is in there? Thomas asked. Not much, some old reports, but you're welcome to come see it if you want to. I'll try to do that, but no promises. Do me a favor, don't tell or show anyone else but me that hidden file, okay? No problem. Gotta run before the traffic gets any worse. See you tomorrow, agents. Miss Woods turned to leave, then swung around and added, Oh, almost forgot. A Mr. Davidson from Division 275 at the Pentagon called for you today. Said if I saw you to tell you to contact him. Bye, agents. See you tomorrow. She pulled the door shut behind her. I thought Division 275 didn't exist, Carrie exclaimed. Me too. They looked at each other and knew it was going to be a very long evening. Chapter 25. Thomas called Director Green on their way to the Pentagon to find the mysterious Division 275. He told the director where they were going and why. Do you think you should meet us there? No, Green said. Absolutely not. Look, if something fishy is going on, and it feels like there is, then the last thing we need is for all of us to be in the same place at the same time. Get what information you can. Act stupid. You know nothing. You got nothing. And don't tell him you received that package in the mail, either. Okay, I'll call you when we're done. Thomas hung up. What did he say? Carrie asked. He said to play dumb and act stupid, as though we know nothing. That won't be hard for you to do, she laughed. Very funny. Oh, he did say not to let them know about the overnight package. Carrie looked suspiciously at Thomas. She glared at him, and her face scrunched into an odd shape. What? He asked. How did he know about the package? It was handed to me as I was walking out yesterday after lunch. Green wasn't anywhere around. The two suddenly didn't feel very good anymore. They were quiet for the remainder of their 10-minute drive to the Pentagon. Walking into the Pentagon, Thomas whispered to Carrie, Let's not talk in the car anymore. Good idea. They flashed their badges to the security guard and signed in. After being issued a temporary pass, the two gave the name of Mr. Davidson of Division 275 to the guard. The guard gave them a puzzled look. We don't have a Division 275, he stated. Thomas was getting tired of this game. Do you have a Mr. Davidson who works in security? I'll check. The guard typed on his keyboard and waited for the system to respond. Well, we have a Mr. Davidson, but he's not in security. He's in room 75, second floor, quadrant E. I'll give him a call and see if he will see you, sir. Thanks. Thomas looked at Carrie and said, That's it. 275, second floor, room 75. They were granted permission to visit Mr. Davidson and began the long walk to Quadrant E. The two hiked down the halls and turned corners, trying to find their destination without getting lost. Walking through the Pentagon was like finding your way through a maze. Carrie was enjoying the tour, for she had never been there before. The place was full of men and women in different military dress uniforms, busily entering and exiting various offices. She enjoyed the displays of war hero memorabilia and other military honors that were proudly displayed in glass cases and on the walls. Hey, isn't this the area that the terrorists destroyed a long time ago? Carrie asked as they entered another quadrant. Not really sure. Once they repaired the building, you can't really tell from the inside, he commented. I was in grade school when it happened, Carrie stated matter-of-factly. Me too, I was just a kid. I remember being so scared. Really? I don't remember any of it, just my mother crying, and I couldn't figure out what was bothering her. They finally found the escalator they were searching for, and as they stepped on, a passing young man in an army uniform looked at them and asked, FBI? Yes, Thomas answered. As they rode the escalator, Carrie asked, What was that all about? What's the FBI supposed to look like? As you've said, this case keeps getting weirder every minute. They followed the numbers on the doors to room 75. Thomas looked at Carrie and said, "Here goes nothing." They touched knuckles as a toast to good luck and opened the door. A young woman with reddish blonde hair sat at a desk. A door to the left of her led to another office. No windows were present in this room. "May I help you?" she asked. "We're here to see Mr. Davidson." Thomas flashed his badge, and Carrie followed suit. The woman stood, opened the door, and softly announced their arrival to someone they couldn't see. She nodded and turned to the two agents. "You can go in." She sat back at her desk as they entered the other office. Thomas suddenly didn't feel real safe. His thoughts were on the director and how he knew about a package he shouldn't have. Thomas thought about Prowler and Marzonia and how badly hurt they'd been. He thought about Ohio and his trip and the lady at the temporary agency and how rehearsed her answers were. He suddenly feared for his and Carrie's safety. He also thought about Marlena and their girls and his mother and father. Thomas was learning the ropes of his trade way too fast. He reached under his coat to flip off the safety latch of his gun and remembered he had given the gun to the guard when he checked in. Great, he thought. They stepped into a sunlit room with a small desk, a bookcase, and 2 extra chairs for visitors. Mr. Davidson stood to greet them. "Please have a seat." He motioned to his chairs. The 2 agents sat. "What can we do for you, Mr. Davidson?" Thomas asked. "And what's your role here?" "I'm a program manager for my company. I'm not a government employee, but my company supports the government under a large contract that we have. I understand you've been asking about one of my employees." He smiled at Carrie. Mr. Davidson was a very charming man in his early 20s. He had dark brown hair and matching eyes. Carrie was enjoying this meeting very much. She smiled back. Thomas rolled his eyes at her and asked Davidson, "And who would that be?" "Maxine Thornton," Davidson answered. Carrie took in a deep breath from the shock. "What company do you work for again?" Thomas continued, trying not to choke on his words. Executive Incorporated. We place our experienced employees throughout various government agencies at a very reduced rate. It's in our contract. You can pick up a copy of it when you leave if you feel it is necessary. I had my secretary copy it for you." He seemed to know exactly what Thomas would ask next. He went on, "We have subcontracts with other smaller temporary agencies in other states. Where the work is located determines whether we handle the placement ourselves or sub it out to another company. We decided to sub out Miss Thornton. We know of her because we must know everything about a person before they can be placed in a government building. We do not just put anyone with our government." He smiled proudly. Thomas wasn't sure what to ask next, so many things were flowing through his mind. Carrie jumped at the chance and spoke up. "Mr. Davidson, did 2 of our other agents come by to see you the other day?" "Yes, they were here. I told them the same things I'm telling you now." "That's strange. They had the distinct feeling that you were uncomfortable with their questions." Carrie had just jumped straight into the lion's den. Thomas gave her a glaring stare. "Watch it." "Not at all," Davidson said calmly. "Whatever would give them that idea? The FBI is one of our largest customers. You can go through all of my files if you'd like," he added. "We will," Thomas said, "but what I really want is to meet this Maxine Thornton personally." He added this before Carrie could jump back in. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Davidson said, smiling. "She's no longer available. I can give you her last known residence in Ohio, along with that phone number." "Sorry, it's all I have. She quit the firm we were working with. From what I remember being told, she accepted a permanent position with a law firm. Great employee. We hated to lose her abilities." He smiled again at Carrie. "Well, if there's nothing more, I have some pressing work to take care of." He stood and walked to the door and held it open for the 2 agents. "I'll send over an agent to review your files in a day or so, Mr. Davidson," Thomas said as they left. "That would be fine." Mr. Davidson closed his office door behind them as soon as they stepped out. The secretary smiled and handed a copy of the contract to them and watched their movements as they left. "Like you said, weirder and weirder," Thomas told Carrie as they left the Pentagon. Chapter 26. Dr. Thurston, Agent Owens, and Agent Snyder were enjoying coffee and donuts when Carrie walked in. "Good morning," she said, very chipper. "Why are you always so happy in the morning?" Owens growled. "Don't know," she answered. She poured herself a freshly brewed cup and searched through the bag to pick out just the right donut. She chose a powdered sugar coated one and took a huge bite. The powdered sugar clung to her lips, and she smiled at the two agents with a huge white mustache. They couldn't help but laugh. "See?" she said through a mouthful of donut. "You can be happy, too." Carrie looked around the room and was impressed. All the evidence had been categorized and organized and were on the wallboards. Names, dates, and pertinent information were listed below each piece of evidence. Wow, what a great job! "This is what happens when you work your ass off instead of running around town all day," Snyder said as Thomas entered the room. Thomas, in his not-so-chipper but plain voice, stated, "Good morning." "Morning," the four agents said in unison. "Looks good," Thomas said without enthusiasm. "It looks great," Carrie said. She stared at him. "Anything wrong?" Ignoring her question, he asked, "Do we have any conclusions?" She continued to glare at Thomas. She'd been working closely enough with him to know that something was bothering him. "Only more questions," Owen said as he walked to the far right of the room and pointed at a picture of the murder victim. "We start here, a senator, dead from electrocution." "Stop right there," Thomas interrupted. Owen spun around and gave Thomas a strange look. "This is why I'm not my happy self this morning," Thomas said. The other agents looked at each other as though asking when was Thomas ever happy, but Thomas ignored them and continued. "I stopped by headquarters to pick up our mail. This was in our box, the final official autopsy report. That other piece of crap is mostly for the media, to keep them happy. All it really told us is what Carrie said, the man was dead." He paused and gathered his thoughts. "A note from the coroner was taped to the top saying he tried to call us yesterday but couldn't get through." He looked up at the eyes now blinking at him. "Our cell phones don't work in here, remember? What concerns me now is that this report states that the senator had been dead a while before he was electrocuted. It's definitely a murder with an attempt to cover up. The coroner estimated that he'd been dead about 20 minutes before being zapped." "My God," Carrie said. "So what did he really die from?" "You're not going to believe this, and this is why it took so long to get the coroner's final report." Thomas paused again to refresh his coffee from the freshly brewed pot. He took a sip, and without turning around said, "Snake venom." "Snake venom?" all four agents asked at the same time. Thomas reached into his shirt pocket, pulled out a small note from the coroner, and read. He stumbled at the words, trying to pronounce the venomous snake's scientific name. "Pseudonia textilis?" He paused again, then said, "Eastern brown snake. It's an Australian snake." "Are you trying to say that our murderer walked in with a snake, had the snake bite our senator, then tried to make it look like an electrocution? Are you crazy? What's in that coffee you're drinking?" Carrie asked as she dumped Thomas's coffee in the sink. "You're really stretching it now, Thomas," Dr. Thurston said from in front of his computer screen. "As Carrie keeps saying," he replied, "this case is getting weirder by the minute." He filled another cup with fresh coffee and gave Carrie the "don't you dare" look. "Weird?" Owen said. "You mean morbid. Are you sure we're not after some Satan worshiper or cult?" "I'm not sure of anything at this point," Thomas answered. "Here's the report to update your board. Go on. Keep talking. I need to hear someone else talk besides me for a while." Owens took the autopsy report and clipped it to the wall. He read the coroner's personal note out loud. "A single small puncture wound on lower left back, 2 inches above the left buttocks. Blood showed a decrease of fibrogen and accompanying rise in fibrin in the blood." Let me see that. Dr. Thurston read the report out loud as Agent Owen gave him a nasty look. First conclusion was heart failure, Thurston read aloud, but really was reading more to himself. An unknown toxicity was evident in what blood was left of the victim and was finally cross-matched to the venom of the eastern brown snake. There's a side note here for you, Thomas, from the coroner. It says, Thomas, if I hadn't worked for the Peace Corps when I first graduated from medical school, I would never have recognized the symptoms from the corpse. Now to continue with the report. Victim also has trauma to the back of the head, a 6-inch indentation directly behind the left ear. Entry of venom was probably from a hypodermic needle, not a snake bite. No bite marks present on the body, only the small puncture wound. Death would have been slow and painful. Victim would have remained alive and struggling for, about 15 to 20 minutes. Second-degree burns over 90% of the body, no burns on the face. Here it is, Carrie yelled from her computer, breaking the hypnosis that had grabbed everyone. I found it on the internet. Let me read it to you. The venom of the eastern brown snake is slow to produce effect, but once symptoms emerge, they proceed with terrifying rapidity, with death being sudden and unexpected. It also says that he would have had cardiorespiratory failure, dissemination, intravascular coagulation accompanied by very active, whatever it says. And then he's going to bleed a lot, have renal failure, and severe thrombocytopenia. Carrie looked up from her screen directly at Dr. Thurston. Okay, Doc, so what does all this mean? Simple. He bled to death, Thurston stated. So where's the blood? Carrie asked. The agents all looked at each other. Yeah, where's the blood? Snyder demanded. Thomas picked up the phone and dialed the FBI office in Ohio. He needed another check of the senator's house. I want luminol testing of that bathroom and bedroom. And if it's not there, I want the whole damn house tested. Thomas was yelling at his agents as the phone rang. As Thomas ordered his tests, Owens continued. Okay, so we know that the senator was killed by an injection of snake venom in the lower left hip, not by electrocution. Wouldn't he have felt it? Carrie asked, rubbing her hip. Depends. Depends on what he was doing at the time. Sleeping, sex, it all depends, Thurston said. The senator ended up in the bathtub, where he was eventually electrocuted. He could have fallen in. We hadn't thought of that angle yet, Snyder added. Yeah, Carrie said in a mocking tone. Maybe he was sleeping when she entered. She poked him with the needle. He wakes up, stumbles into the bathroom, and falls into the tub, pulling the radio in with him. Maybe? Thomas had finished his phone call and was listening. Okay, he said, rubbing his mouth. Go on. Owen sighed. Okay, we have someone coming in, sneaking in. We know she got in through the tunnel in the attic, but he had to be expecting her. The door wasn't locked. Unless she picked the lock, Carrie interrupted again. Yeah, I'd believe that, Snyder said. How would she know about the tunnel and attic door? Thomas asked. Good question, Carrie answered. Owens looked at the two, who kept interrupting each other, and wrote some notes on the board. Picked locks? ? Happy now? He continued. Now, this person comes in. Maybe our senator was sleeping. She jabs him. Maybe she ducks under the bed, or maybe she doesn't care if he sees her. He stumbles into the bathroom, falls into the tub, and zap. No, won't work. Who keeps water in the tub for just such an occasion? He would have heard the water running and woke up. Those tubs are noisy when they're filling up. Carrie couldn't resist pushing in again. Okay, let's look at another angle. Let's say she has an affair with him. She then can just come and go as she pleases. So she sneaks into his room, she plays with him, and they have sex. She then fills the tub, and while he dozes off to slumberland, whammo! The other agents jump as Carrie slammed her hand against her hip. She went on excitedly. She slaps him and pokes him at the same time on the butt. He never feels it. If he did, he might be surprised, but not too concerned, just annoyed. Then maybe they have sex again. No, wait. She's getting concerned because she knows he's going to start bleeding from every hole in his body. So she's already naked. She can't risk blood on her clothes. And she leads him into the bathroom for some more fun in the tub. The idea of oral sex will get any man where a woman wants him. All the men are staring at Carrie, unable to believe what they were hearing. He begins to get sick, she said, and starts to bleed. He probably wanted to sit on the toilet. I know I would. Go on, young lady, Thomas said. I like it so far. Everyone was now very interested in her story. He passes out. No, wait, I got it. Somehow gets him to the edge of the tub. She'd have to. She can't lift him off the floor. He falls back and hits his head. Most of the bleeding is done in the tub. She waits, drains the water, and cleans up the mess. She can do laundry or whatever she needs to do. There's no staff that week, remember? Holiday for the missus. She gave them the week off. Too easy. When he's done bleeding, that probably took forever. Oh, my God. She refills the tub, and wanting it to look like an accident, because, remember, we don't have eastern brown snakes in Ohio, she tosses in the radio. And since he lost so much blood in the system, it all makes sense now. Carrie had more. I'll bet she used an extension cord or something, so the circuit in the plug wouldn't pop. That would work, wouldn't it? She looked around and smiled as though she had just solved the puzzle all by herself. All 4 agents were fixated by her and her story. They couldn't speak. My girl, God, Owens finally said, remind me never to piss you off. What? Carrie whined, scrunching her shoulders. What did I say? Nothing, Thomas said, nothing at all. All 5 stared at the pictures on the wall. Well, Dr. Thurston said, I guess we have figured it all out. Thomas looked over. Okay, so where does the temporary agency come in? And why did Washington hire Maxine? And who attacked Proudler and Marzonia? And why? Why an unknown division at the Pentagon? Everyone was listening intently. Damn, we still have just too many unanswered questions. Carrie looked around and all eyes were on her again. We need to go back out, she surmised. All of us. We need to gather more information. Lots more information.